Running a BJJ school is no small task. Between teaching, managing the students, handling the business side of things, it can get overwhelming really fast. The amount of instructors who I've spoken to who are stressed out, have no free time, and end up really hating the job that they used to love is unbelievable. And that is why systemization is key if you want to achieve more with less stress. Systemization helps you create a smooth, efficient operation. And it allows you to focus on the areas that you love and hand off the ones that you don't. In this training, we're going to dive into how to systemize your academy step by step. And by the end of it, you'll know exactly what to do and also have the key areas you want to start systemizing. In case we've never met, my name is Tom Barlow. I run Escapology BJJ along with my wife. We are one of the most successful academies in the area, currently in the center of Cambridge with around 300 plus students. And in my 20 plus years of running martial arts schools, I've been to 3 or 4, if you include the post-COVID return, gyms to 6 figures and beyond. And I've done it without losing my hair, which is quite amazing. And a big part of that is understanding the importance of having systems and then being able to delegate those systems off to other people. And delegate those systems and get replicable results, which is really important. In this training, we're going to go over all of that. But the first thing to do is understand the problem. Let's dive over to the notes for this training and we can start talking about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, all that kind of fun stuff. So the first thing, as I said, is we need to understand the problem. The problem is that most schools just don't have replicable systems. That means unless the person who usually does the system is there, the system doesn't get done. And often that person is the instructor. And as the instructor is responsible for every part of the gym, they get overwhelmed real fast. For example, let's say that you are sick. Who would sign up the new people coming to train? If the answer is, I don't know, then you have a bit of a problem in your school and you're one step away from some kind of disaster. That is one of the most important things that you can take away from this training. If your business relies on you, you don't really have a business. Because all it takes, as I said, is a sickness, an injury, an illness, or anything that takes you out of the equation, and your business is really going to struggle. So let's look at the solution. The solution is this. Let's say that that same person walks into your school, but instead of them not knowing what to do, no one taking responsibility for it, they're met by someone instantly when they come through the door. They're shown around the academy. They're welcomed. They feel impressed. They feel confident that your academy is the right place to train, and they feel comfortable trying out a class. And at the end of that, they sign up and you get a new member. And best of all of this happens while you're sunning yourself in the Bahamas. That is the power of a system. They work with replicable results no matter who is running them. And that is kind of the key to this. Doesn't matter who it is, but they should be able to get replicable results. And there's 3 main benefits that we've kind of touched on this as well. The first one is time freedom. You can give systems to any competent person and they should be able to follow them. That's what we're trying to get to. The second one is happier students. If the students are having a consistent, professional, good experience, they're going to stick around for longer, they're going to enjoy the process. The worst thing is going into academy and not knowing what to expect. Who's going to be teaching today? Is class going to start on time? Will the mats be clean? Yada, yada, yada. All that does is push that person closer to quitting, and you don't want that. And the final thing that it allows you to do is scalable growth. Because your school isn't relying on you doing all the work, there are no bottlenecks. Okay, you're not reliant on how many people you can talk to, how many of those people who inquire about classes you can contact. You have systems in place that can take that load, and so you can scale much faster. Because if you get a ton of new people inquiring about classes, all you do is bring somebody else on board to deal with those new people, hand them the system, and they get replicable results. You want to think of systemizing your academy or your business just like systemizing your BJJ. The better your systems, the more consistent and better the results you have. So let's jump into the structure, the process, and the principles. The first thing to understand is that creating systems is a relatively simple process. When I first learned about the idea of a systemized school, I didn't really understand what it was about. But essentially, we are looking at a checklist of things that have to be done and some key metrics and people responsible. For example, if we jump over to here, let's say you've got a basic closing down system. This isn't the full system, it's just to give you an example. This system is you check everyone's out of the building, you make sure any left over property is put in lost property, you close down the computers, you turn out the lights, you set the alarm, whatever else is, right? And you have a checkbox to make sure all of those gets done. Someone signs it, someone's dates it. You now have a process that everybody can follow. You have recorded the steps they were taken, and you can check whether they've been missed because they have to be ticked off. That kind of becomes important if you're dealing with like insurances. Let's say you had a break-in. Was the alarm set? Yes, this person ticked off that box and they signed to do it. It allows you to adjust for efficiency. Let's say there's something that can be done faster or better or smoother. You can look at that system and modify it and change it accordingly. So maybe, you know, there is a way that, I don't know, we can put two of these things together. So rather than having two steps, we only have one step, you know. You also have a record of who did it. So for example, if you know, the lights weren't turned off, or the alarm wasn't set, or the door wasn't locked, or lost property wasn't left around, you could be like, hey, you know, did you set the alarm when you leave? Yes. Well, you've got a record of that. You can ask that person directly, and you know it was done. And then the final thing is you have the date that it was done as well. So that becomes very important, so that you can track and monitor processes. Again, really, really crucial. In terms of the principles, when thinking about these checklists, you want to make sure that number one, they are so easy an untrained person could follow them. That means that you need to provide all of the relevant information for those specific tasks. So for example, in the one we talked about a moment ago, if you have to set an alarm, do they need a code? Do they need a key fob? What are the steps to set it that they follow out? So we kind of end up with like a little subsystem. So checking the alarm, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, press the green button, alarm set. You have to leave within 15 minutes. That's what we want to do. Now, you might have to use a couple of different types of media. So you might have written instructions, you might have to do something via video, could be an easy way to go about doing it, or you might have to do like a physical training once that you sign them off on. But again, the cool thing about doing this and putting this work in is that you can do it once and then you have the system and you're good to go and you never have to worry about it and you're getting the same results. So you can leave people in charge and know that the work is getting done. In terms of like the process of how we go about doing this, it's really easy. All you need to do is record what you do. So for example, again, the closing down system that we had earlier, the next time you close down your academy, record the process. Either write out a checklist as you're going or record a video and then write a checklist. That's it. And once you've done that, you have this system ready to go. So if you know, off in the Bahamas and you need to know that your system has been done, you can pass this off to somebody else and they'll be able to do the same thing. Or maybe you're that assistant instructor or whatever. And then once you've been through all of the systems in your school, you just compile them into some kind of document that you can give your staff. That becomes your standard operating procedure. You now have a systemized school and you can monitor those systems, check those systems, and that's going to allow you to grow and delegate tasks. So in terms of actually systemizing your school, okay, what are the key areas that we need to do? Well, really it's going to come down to 3 core things. We've got our sales and marketing systems, we have our coaching and classes systems, and we have our operations and finance systems. That's basically it. That's the 3 different parts of your academy. Okay, I know there's 6 words there, but we'll just say it's 3. And in terms of each one of these, there's a couple of key reasons. There's a key reason that each one matters, and then I've also jotted down a number of systems that you might want to start with and how you can go about doing that. So for example, the first one, sales and marketing. Without new people joining your classes, your academy is never going to grow. Ideally, you want a consistent flow of people coming into your classes and signing up. I know that is very, very obvious, but the amount of schools that don't have this and maybe get 1 person a month, 1 lead a month, or a couple of leads a month, and then nothing happens to them is astronomical. I was speaking to an instructor the other day that had 600 leads in his database, but had no backup, like no system of contacting those leads if they never tried a class straight away. Okay, we need a system in place to do that, to get those people to the next step of the journey. And if we systemize those processes, then we can optimize them and improve them so that we get more people coming into our classes to join. For example, let's say that you have 50% of your leads eventually to come into a class. Okay, you get 100 leads, 50 people come to our class. If you improve that system, maybe when you're trying to get them to register for their first class, you send them a text message, you record like a private video, or you do something, you set up a couple of emails on the back end that, you know, helps improve that system, and it goes from 50% to 60%, means the back end, you get more students. Okay, that's really crucial, right? We're doing the same amount of work with less energy. And because often these things can, particularly like, you know, anything to do with the computer can be automated, doesn't actually take much more time for you. Okay, so that's what we want to, that's the optimization things as well. You know, so for example, rather, you know, every lead that you come in, you have to manually send a text message. How could we automate that process, that system, so that there is a piece of software that does it for you? That means that they're getting the same system, you can track the results, and you are going to be improving your conversion. All really crucial. So here are five key systems that I think you should probably look at starting with. Number one is your ad system. Okay, what ads are you creating and how are you monitoring them? Okay, now why do I say that ads are one of the first places to start? Because they are very quick to get you leads. Okay, you can do content marketing, you can do, you know, all your social media stuff, but if your reach isn't very big, you're only just starting out, it takes a long time to get traction. With ads, you're paying for that exposure. That's the way that you want to think about it. So we have paid marketing and we have free marketing. Paid marketing, you pay with money. Free marketing, you pay with time. Paid marketing is super fast, but disappears once you shut off that money. Free marketing is around for a long time, but like I said, it costs you time. So we want to balance out those two things ultimately, but when schools are starting in systemization, we want to get ads because they're fast and they're quick. And if you can make a return on your investment of your ad spend, you can grow real fast and you can keep pumping money in that and then build out the rest of the systems on the back end. The next one is your inquiry system. Okay, so what is what happens when someone inquires about your class? What's the process they go through? Okay, how do you talk to them? How do you get them to take that next step? Which comes on to the trial system. Okay, what's the system when someone comes in for that first class? What do they go through? How are they greeted? How are you giving your academy the best opportunity to convert them to a new member? Which brings us on to new member system. What happens when they join? So many schools, the person joins your class and then that's it. There's nothing else that happens. It's like, now you're left to your own devices. But they will still have tons of questions. They still need support. They still need guidance. You need things in the background that take them from, you know, their first class, their second class, to 30 days, to 90 days, to a year, explains about grading, competitions, anything that's to do with your academy to maximize your results and decrease your attrition. Their attrition is the number of people who leave. The next one is follow-up systems. Follow-up systems are what happens if someone tries a class but doesn't join. Okay, that is, again, really, really important because you can, let's say someone comes in, they're kind of umming and ahhing, oh, I need to talk to my partner, whatever. What do you do after that? If you just kind of let them walk around and never contact them again, you're missing a great opportunity to convert that person at like a later date. If you set up something in the back end, again, which could be automated, you could maximize that result. So rather than, let's say, again, using my simple numbers, you have 10 people come in for a trial, 5 of them sign up and 5 of them walk off. You put in a back end system which converts that 5 to 7. You've got 2 extra new members with very little extra work, particularly if you can replicate it. So again, why these 5 systems? Okay, I kind of highlighted it a little bit as I was going through. System 1 is going to get more people asking about your classes. That is a very easy way to grow your school. Systems 2 to 5 are getting more people to sign up for those classes. That essentially, if you're advertising, gives you more bang for your buck, okay? Rather than just 50 of those leads or 25 of those leads that you get in signing up, you end up with 50 of those leads signing up. It makes a big, big difference, okay? Bit of a pro tip here, but your goal with these systems is to get to know, like, and trust you, okay? I'm gonna repeat that as well. So with all of these systems, so your ads, your inquiry, whatever, The goal of them is that person should get to know, like, and trust you. That is how they are going to join your academy. Just think about the last time, think about this video, for example. Like, the reason that you're watching it is because I did something to make you feel like you know who I am, you like me, and you trust what I'm going to say is help you grow your school. That is really, really important. And if you think about these actions in all of the parts of that system, your conversion will naturally go up. So what can I do to get this person to know me better, like me better, and trust me more? Okay. Area number 2, coaching and classes. Okay, getting new members is very, very important. But getting those people to stick around long term is what's going to be critical to your maximization of your growth, how big your school can grow. It is literally one of the key drivers. So if you think about your school a bit like a leaky bucket, right? You take that leaky bucket, you can fill it up as fast as you like with new students, but if there's big holes in it, it's going to be empty real quick, particularly if that water in the top dries up. So you turn off your ads or your marketing gets shut down for whatever reason. If you have great retention, you're plugging those holes so that people stick around for a long time. Okay, that is really, really important, particularly as your academy grows. To give you an example, the industry average attrition for Jiu-Jitsu is somewhere between 5 and 6%. I'm going to use 5 because it's an easy number. If you have 300 students, like I said, in my academy is around about 300 students at the moment, if our attrition was 5%, that means that 15 of those students every month would be leaving. So for me to stay at like 0, I would need to sign up 15 new students. That is a lot of work. Now our attrition rate is around about 2%. So rather than 15, I lose 6 people per month. That's it. Okay, and it's even a little bit lower than that. That makes growing my school so much easier because I never have to get over that hurdle. Even if I had 1,000 students, I would only have to get 20 a month. Okay, for example, in December, we signed up 27 people. So I can definitely do 20 a month. Versus if I had a 5% attrition, 50 people. That's a lot to recover every single month. Okay, that is why retention is so important. So, some key systems to start with. The first one is your class structure. What is the structure of your classes and how does it meet the needs of your students? So, for example, do you have beginners classes in place? Beginners require a very different setup to someone who's been training a long time. Kids, what's with your kids classes? Do you have all of your kids together? Or do you split them up by age group? Because a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old need very different learning environments. So you have to think about the structure of your classes. Okay, and also within that, what happens within that? Because the structure of, let's say, a 5 to 7-year-old's class, or we call our Pee-wee's class, is different to a 7 to 12-year-old, which is different to a 12 to 15-year-old, which is kind of different. They actually kind of get closer as you go up the ladder, but they have a different structure, they have a different flow, they have a different energy within them because people have different needs, okay? So you need to be thinking about that within your school. Your curriculums, okay? What are the students learning and when? Very closely related to the previous topic. So what's a beginner learning? In that beginner's program, what are the key things that you need them to get before they move up to the next level? What do you need them to understand about Jiu-Jitsu? Same for a kid, same for whatever. Student tracking. What happens if a student misses a week of training? Or how do you know if they're ready for the next belt? You need to track their attendance. Okay, it is really important. Yes, I know belts shouldn't be just based on attendance, but they can help you identify people who need extra help, missing classes, or are just ready for gradings, you know. Or you need to slow them down as well, is the other thing as well. Because, you know, if you're operating with the IBJJF structure, someone who has only been I think a blue belt for a year, you can't even get a purple belt. Okay, so you can't promote, well, you could promote that person, but you know, they need to spend extra time at those grades. And then instructor training system. How are you getting new instructors and how are you improving their teaching skills? These are both critical things, particularly like as you get older, if you want to spend more time with your family, if you want to go on holiday, if you want to go to competitions. Like I just spent 10 days away from my school and there wasn't a beat missed in my academy. Chelsea wasn't there. We had a number of our instructors away because we have this pool of instructors that we can rely on to teach our classes. So how are you growing those new instructors? And then how are you taking those new instructors and really maximizing their skills and bringing them on board to be full people who can teach the classes? Is it just someone who got to a black belt, or did you teach them the system of how you run your classes? I've actually got an example of one of the parts of our system that I can show you later, which is all about teaching in different parts of the class. So if you think of your academy a bit like preparing for a tournament, you need to have a strategy. Without a strategy, it's just kind of chaotic, right? You don't know what you're going to do. You slap hands, you fist bump, and then chaos ensues, and hopefully at the end of it you win. With a structured plan, it's completely different. You know every step of what you're going to do. I'm going to make this grip here, I'm going to do this, and you can adapt to your training partner or your opponent based on their skill set and what they're doing, okay, or how they defend your attacks. So with a structured plan, you are going to grow much faster in a much more replicable way. Final area of these that I wanted to talk about is your operations. Okay, so operations and finances. If you look behind any world-class, high-performing, big school, your favorite school that you've ever trained at, the one that you would like, man, I would love to have a gym like this, they seem to be so successful, they are going to be well organized on the back end. They're going to be managing their memberships, finances, they're going to be staffing effectively, they're going to be tons of stuff to keep their school running efficiently. Okay, and establishing strong systems in those areas will allow you to optimize the processes and keep more of the money that you generate, which is very, very important for the stability of your school. I know as instructors we don't like to talk about money, but it is important. Like if you can't pay the rent at the end of the month, you know, it doesn't matter how great of an instructor you are, your school's still going to close. You need money. It is like the lifeblood of your academy, and what makes everything work. And money allows you to do some really cool stuff. Anyway, a couple of systems that you want. You want payment systems. You want to be able to think how do you collect payments, and how do you make that process as easy as possible? So the amount of instructors that still are like, yeah, like, you know, I just take cash at the end of every month, or like I had one guy that I spoke to who like, he gave the people a standing order form and then they had to fill it out and take it to their bank. And I'm like, this is not efficient. You are losing so many people because they just don't do the thing. They just don't take it in. Like it's hard for them. There's a lot of friction there. Like with us, someone gives us their card details once and then pretty much they're done. Like they don't have to worry about anything else. Like if they want to buy some finger tape, we go, yeah, cool. Do you want us to bill your account? They go, yeah, and we click a button and it's done. That's what you want to get to, because that lack of friction makes everything easier. That's why a lot of businesses move over to card payments versus cash. It's just simpler, it's better tracking, faster, and it can increase your profits as well. So the next one you want to think about is instructor schedules. Like what are your instructors teaching and when? Goes back to kind of curriculums, but it's important. You need to know who's teaching those classes, if they're going away. This kind of applies a little bit more when you grow. If you're just teaching all the classes yourself, then you don't necessarily have to worry about this too much, but it is something you have to worry about in the future, and you may as well start to get it set up. The other thing you want to be thinking about is like, if they go on holiday, how do they deal with that request? Or if they're sick or whatever, whose responsibility is it to get the cover for that class, and what's the process they go through? And the final area you want to be thinking about is like your monthly metrics. Okay, what is the process for tracking and reviewing like key statistics, like your lead volume, your signups, your attrition? Do you have that in place? Because if you don't track anything, you don't actually know where you're at. And if you don't track something, you can't improve it. Okay, that's kind of why competition is important for jiu-jitsu, right? Am I getting the results I want? Yes or no? No, then I need to do something to improve my jiu-jitsu. Okay. This stuff, like I've said in the document, it is not exciting, but it is key to being stable and being profitable in your academy. And I'll give you an example. It's one I've used in the past. I was good friends with one of the biggest billing companies in the UK. They once told me that if every one of their instructors tracked student attendance 100%, then it would bump their direct debit check by 20%. Without any extra work, they would be making 20% more income, because they would be able to capture people who have missed payments, people whose cards have bounced, people who have just, you know, for whatever reason, their cards have expired, whatever. They would capture that money But because it was delayed, like someone comes into the class, they're not tracking attendance, they don't recognize that they haven't paid for their membership. Not because they're lying to you or trying to steal from you. It just sometimes happens, right? And that is why it is really important to have this stuff in place. Like, wouldn't you like 20% extra income for no extra work? Like, yeah, I think the answer is probably yes. All you got to do, start tracking attendance 100% and you will get that bump. Okay. So ideally, this is a pro tip for you. Find a system that integrates as much of this together as possible. We use something called Gymdesk. It works great for attendance tracking, for capturing payments, and there's some okay kind of communication stuffs in there. But like in terms of managing our gym, it's great. It like does an amazing job and it makes everything kind of easier for us. Okay, it's not perfect, but it does a really, really good job and it makes it easier to track and monitor everything, and we can systemize everything in a better way. So that's a big, big tip. If you don't use something like that, figure something out and try and get something that integrates as best as possible those two areas. So to give you an example of a system, this is a basic lesson plan. It's we actually don't use this lesson plan anymore, but it's one I created a while ago, and it illustrates this kind of checklist idea, and it's a good example. Something I share in an ebook called the Perfect Class Structure. It's a really good way to go. We've evolved ours a little bit because we have slightly different systems now, but it gives you a good idea. And this would be within like our class structure or curriculums. Okay, there'll be other elements tacked into this. So the idea behind this lesson plan, this cheat sheet, is that is twofold. Number one, it allows us to track what that instructor taught in the class, which is very important. If you ever have an injury in a class, you need to be able to present a lesson plan like this to your insurance company to say, this is what we did, this is why we did it, this is the precautions I take, all of that kind of stuff. That was the first thing. The second thing is it allowed me to create like a little kind of checklist of the things that they should be doing during the class as well, to kind of promote retention, to make sure everybody's having a good time, to do all of the other stuff that we want to do. Okay, the final thing it allows you to do is it allows you to give it to your students. They have a record of what they've learned. Okay, very, very simple. So the basics is like I said, this is the instructor, this is the class, that's who taught it, and like what the class is. So it might be like Tom, advanced class, right? And then we have the checklist. Before class, did you welcome everybody to class? You could tick it off. Did you check the training environment for hazards? Does anybody have any injuries? Did you pre-frame the class on what they'll be learning? Really important. So the first couple are like, building rapport with your students, the top one and the bottom one. Training environment and injuries, that's all about safety of your students. Like understanding if there's anything dangerous around and warning people about it is really important. For example, one of my gyms, really bad problem with condensation. We used to get literally just pools of water on the mats. Like if we didn't check those areas, people would potentially have a slip hazard. That creates a problem with like insurance being sued, injuries, all that kind of stuff. So that kind of stuff is important, and just giving it as that visual reminder for the instructor really helps. Warm-ups. And again, I've added a note in here. It's like the goal is to prepare them for the techniques taught. So if we're doing omoplatas, what am I doing in my warm-up to prevent the person from getting injured, prevent them from getting hurt, right? I need to be thinking about those things. How am I pre-framing them for the class that's coming up? Because if you have a ton of injuries in your class, your attrition goes down, your attrition goes up, means that students don't train. When they break their habit, they're more likely to quit. Okay, curriculum. What are the main parts of the class that I'm teaching? Okay, what are like the 3 to 5 drills that I'm using? How am I structuring, like sparring, all of that kind of stuff. And I've got a few notes in here. It's like attitude, crucial for your class. Got to be fun, got to be engaging. Everybody should be having a good time. We always like talk about the SSL principle, which is smiling, sweating, learning. They're the 3 key components of every class. If your class is missing one of those, it's important. So like smiling, having a good time, really important. It keeps people training. 3 times rule. So like using people's names, giving them some recognition, like correcting them, like that builds your relationship with the student. Okay, it makes them feel like that you know who they are. Again, great for retention. Spotlighting is very crucial. Spotlighting is where you highlight 2 people who are doing a great job. Focusing on the middle 80%. So if you imagine like the best guys in the gym always get like a load of like recognition because they're always doing great things. You have the rubbish guys in the gym who always get recognition because you're always helping them out, trying to support them as best you can, bring them up to the good guys. But that middle 80% of people, they kind of get lost a lot of the time. So focusing on that 80%, it allows you to balance your attention across the whole class. And then planning to finish 3 minutes early or 5 minutes early is really crucial. Often if you're running like back-to-back classes, you need time between the classes for people to dissipate, to give announcements, to award belts, do whatever. Over planning is a real problem. You need to make sure that you're giving enough time in your classes for that. Okay, next bit is high energy finish. This was actually, I originally wrote this for a kickboxing class where you'd have like a real pump, like high energy finish to get people like motivated to leave the mats on a high. That's really important if you've had like a tough sparring session, right? Like if you've been the nail the entire time, it feels kind of rubbish when you step off the mat. If you have some kind of high energy finish when they leave the mat, or like at the end, then you're thinking about that, like you're on that endorphin high rather than how bad your training was in the rest of the class. Okay, so again, it helps retention. End of class checklist. Like, did you give a mat chat? Was there any topics that you talked about? Who was the student of the day? This was designed to deal with kids and adults as well, which some of the stuff might not necessarily be necessary. So with kids, you often at the end of classes talking about like the importance of discipline and all kinds of other stuff. Move of the day, student of the day. Great for kids to kind of do some of that spotlighting, give them recognition. Did you ask for referrals? Can be really simple as like, hey, if you know anyone who wants to train, give them our number and we'll sort out the rest, and then announcements like a couple of weeks time, we've got Joseph Chen coming down to a seminar, 2 spaces left, do you want to come? And then the after class checklist. This is really, really important. And again, a lot of people miss this. Class doesn't necessarily end when the class ends, right? Afterwards, if you don't have a system that does it automatically, who was registered for the class didn't show up. If you just drop them an email or like a Facebook message or whatever, or give them a call or a text and just say, hey, John, I saw you registered for the class, but you weren't in, is everything okay? It makes them feel kind of important, right? That you've noticed they're not there. Great for your attention. Student chats. So do you have any issues in your class? Like maybe you've got a guy who had a real bad session. Just spend a couple of minutes with him, helping him out. Really important. Or maybe you've got one guy who's going to a competition. You need to help him plan out for that or whatever. And you can either do that as like a very simple, like right then and there, or maybe you need to sit down and have like a longer appointment with somebody. And then the final thing is notes. Is there anything that like, this is for like the future, right? So if you teach a class over and over again, you can really kind of optimize that class. So you can put in notes in the notes section, things that worked really, really well. So what are the drills that everybody loved? Like what are the, what was the things that people struggled with? What are the areas that we need to work on? This can form the basis of your next class. Or the next time you come to teach this class, you have the notes of what you taught and you can just be like, okay, I need to change this drill, or we need to do something slightly different. Or if you're teaching it again that week, it's exactly the same idea. So that's why this is important. Then instructor signature and date, so that you have a complete kind of track of who taught the class, they've signed off, they've dated it and when it was. So that, like you can see, that's relatively simple document. It does take some time to fill it out. Like you have to be planning your classes and thinking about your classes and kind of tracking it as you're going through. Like you could very easily turn this into a Google sheet that could be filled out, or like an online form that could be filled out and stored digitally, rather than it having a paper copy. But the paper copy is quite valuable too. But yeah, works great, and it gives you all the necessary things to, we're asking for referrals, so we're growing our school. We're talking about, we've got the ideas of improving our retention, which is so important. Any kind of announcements helps your growth. Like for example, I mentioned you've got Joseph Chen coming down. That fills up your seminar, it helps your academy become more profitable. All of those things are really crucial. So that's a very basic system that you can take away with you. So that is the end of the training, okay? And hopefully you found it very useful. Hopefully you have a good understanding of what to do and how to start systemizing your schools. If I was going to start today, there's a few key points that I would do, and I think this is really important because it can seem very overwhelming to try to systemize an entire school, right? So many different areas. I talked about 12, I think, but there's so many other areas that you have in there that we haven't really touched on, okay? But what I would say is don't wait, okay? You're already doing the things anyway, so you just basically have to record the process. That's your first step. So what I would do is I would pick on one area. okay, to improve to start with, okay, and I would start small. So the one that I would start with if like I had to start right from scratch is your trial system, okay? So what happens when someone books their first class and comes in? The reason that I say that is because it's relatively simple to do, but it will instantly help you grow your school. Like I said, let's say you have, 20 trials a month and only 10 of them sign up. If you manage to increase that by 10, 20%, you're now got 14 people signing up, which is extra students without any extra cost of getting them in. Okay, that's really, really crucial. It's really important. Okay, and then you can start working on the other things because now you're consistently getting 70 to 80% of the people who try a class join. Very, very powerful. Okay. The next one, and then what you want to do is you want to work on that for a month. Okay, so you just keep banging out, like thinking about how do we get that person to know, like, and trust us, and feel like we're the right place that they want to join, and you build out that system. Think about the areas. What do they need to know? What can I do to support them through this kind of little journey? That's the kind of key. And you just focus on it for a month. Start of the month, how are we doing? Maybe you track your stats for the last 6 months to see what your current conversion rate is, and then you're looking to how can I get this better? Okay, what can I do to improve this? And like I said, above in this training, I wrote out 12 systems. You could spend like a month on each of those systems, and by the end of it, you'll have completed all 12 systems. Your student base will have grown, your retention will probably have got better, and your back-end systems will have improved, and ideally you'll be less stressed and have a greater income as well. And then the final thing that you want to do is you've got two options. You either get feedback on it or give the system to somebody else and have them go through it. And the reason you want to say that is because you want them to kind of break the system. Because if they can't figure out a step or they're not 100% sure on it, it needs clarification. So going right back up to that system, we talked about the closing down system. Like you've done through the system, but they're like, I didn't understand how to set the alarm, or I don't know what the code for the thing is. You're like, okay, I've got to put that in there. Okay, that then improves your system, improves the efficiency, makes it smoother. Okay, and that's basically it. All you need to do, start systemizing your school today, and you will watch it grow. Now, if I've got to put a little bit of a cheeky plug in here as well, because I can help you do it quicker, basically. If you want all of the systems that we use in our school, you can just join Escapology Online. It literally has everything that we do in, or if it doesn't have it yet, it will have it soon. So for example, this training will be going up there. There's a link below this. You can click on it, learn about the membership, and if you have any other questions, just email me at tom@escapologybjj.com, and I'll be happy to help. Hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you soon.